Hey and welcome to my channel. In today's video I finally wanted to share my birth story with you in a Swedish hospital. So we're talking a little bit about healthcare again. One of my last videos, as you maybe know, was a little bit negative, so check it out if you want to, but I have loads of hope, especially because I made some good experiences and I wanted to talk to you. And maybe there's some women out there who want to or need to give birth in Sweden and they're curious about what they can expect. I gave birth to my second daughter 4.5 months ago. Time is flying, crazy. And in this video I just wanted to briefly talk about my experience. If you're new to my channel, my name is Julie and I'm originally from Germany. About a year ago I moved with my British partner and my 3-year-old daughter to Sweden, and recently we also moved into a new house. We are slowly integrating ourselves into Swedish society, and that's basically what I'm talking about here on my channel. I talk about my personal experience, all the things I come across, which maybe interest other people who want to move here or who already live here. I think it's always fun to hear other people's perspectives on what it is like to live in a country, maybe in your country. I'm totally honest here. I talk about the bad and the good stuff, so I will not hold him back and just picture a certain image about Sweden. Everything is quite truthful, but everything is also quite personal. I hope you will enjoy it, and if you want to follow along, you know where to subscribe. So at the beginning, before I was giving birth, I had a few questions in my head. You know, what it is like to give birth here in Sweden. One of the questions was also related to the pandemic. You can kind of say it's over now, I guess, but around 6 months ago it definitely was a topic, and there were certain rules where you couldn't take more than one person to the hospital, no visitors. If your partner left, they couldn't come back, and all these things. I was very curious what it would be like. A little bit terrifying it was sometimes, especially, you know, I didn't want my partner to maybe be forced to leave and he wouldn't be able to come back because we have another daughter. You know, we had to take care of her or make sure she is taken care of. And at the time, maybe it's still the case, but at the time there were also rumors going around, or let's say news stories, that there weren't enough midwives, not enough staff, you know, and that's also a little bit terrifying if you think you go maybe to the hospital and there are not enough people to maybe take care of you. So that was the question I asked myself. Another question is, you normally put your preferred hospital into like a list, but you still have to call them when you are in labor to see if they have space for you. So that was also a little bit of a concern, that because it was the closest hospital, that maybe we had to go to another hospital. So the question was, could I go to my preferred hospital? Not that I knew them, but it was the closest one. Of course, you know, I don't speak Swedish yet, so for me it was also the question, could they speak English? Although, you know, everyone says pretty much every Swede can speak English. It's not always the case, really, and I was just wondering, will I have a midwife, at least one, you know, who can speak English? So that was also a question I had before I gave birth here in Sweden. And then just in general, I was wondering how, you know, nice the staff will be, if it is a nice environment in the hospital or if it's cold, you know, all these things I've never experienced here in Sweden. So I was just wondering before I went to the hospital what it will be like. So yeah, this video is a little bit personal because I am talking about my labor a little bit, just to give you a little bit of a timeline. But in between, I give you information about how I felt, especially being in the hospital and the people who took care of me. So that gives you a little bit of an insight of what it could be in a Swedish hospital. I tried to make it very short. My contractions actually started 3 a.m. in the morning. I waited a little bit before I called the hospital just because I thought 3 a.m. is a little bit early and I didn't know if it was maybe fake contractions. So when it was like a decent time and my partner and my daughter were awake between 7 and 8, I actually called and told them that I have been, you know, well, I didn't know if I was in labor, but that I had contractions for quite a few hours, and they were very nice. They basically asked me a few questions and then said I should call back in about, I think it was almost 3-4 hours. So I did that and we talked on the phone again, and they always ask me if I feel comfortable staying at home a little bit longer. So it was kind of my decision if I wanted to come into the hospital or if I wanted to stay at home. I read a lot. Although I gave birth to my previous daughter, it was a C-section, a planned C-section, because she was breech. So my experience was totally different. I was never in labor before. So that was kind of like giving birth for the first time. But I read a lot that it is good that you stay at home as long as possible. And I tried basically doing that. And I think at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I called again. And because I had a C-section before, they thought it is actually a good idea to now come in to just examine me and to see where I am at. So I was saying, okay, I probably will be in, 1-2 hours later, just because I had to pick up my daughter from kindergarten, bring her to a friend, and then go to the hospital. So I had quite a bit of things to do before I actually could go to the hospital. I was quite in pain, but everything else was quite manageable. Then we arrived at 3 p.m, so 12 hours later pretty much, since the contractions first started. I feel like that's when I even felt it more, but maybe because I was now in the environment, I all of a sudden was like, oh my God, I can't walk anymore. I really needed to sit down. Like, I was glad that I could, sit down somewhere and not have to move anymore. Long story short, they examined me and I was already 5 centimeters dilated. I'm sure a lot of guys are watching this video as well, and it's maybe a bit weird. But yeah, that's what's happening when you give birth. So I was in a good position, and then I think like things could start. Although, again, it was my first experience giving normal birth, not through a C-section. I didn't really know how long it would take. But yeah, since I arrived, people really took care of me. I had a bit of a change of midwives because the shift was ending, but the first midwife was absolutely lovely. I felt very comfortable. I think at the very beginning I didn't talk much because I was in so much pain. So we didn't chat or anything, but in my back, subconsciously I felt quite comfortable. And then when we came in the room where I would then later give birth, I found the room really obviously clean. We had actually a nice view. It was quite spacious. We had our own bathroom. It felt really nice, actually. We also had some fairy lights and some music I was listening to. The whole environment seemed very calm. It was not very loud or busy on the ward. I'm sure there were some other women, but you could barely hear anything. So that was really good, There was a very calm environment, and I think you need that when you're about to give birth. Well, at 3 a.m. the next day, so pretty much 24 hours having contractions, I pushed out that baby. Crazy experience for sure. I remember I had skin to skin immediately, and you are in a very strange position between like giving birth and like the pain and like relief of pain. And the team, it was actually 3 people I had around me. It was a midwife, then a student midwife, and a nurse. And they normally came together, always checking on me. So I had 3 people taking care of me, which is incredible. Obviously, the student was learning, so she was always around. But yeah, it was quite nice to have a few people like to ask questions, or if we had any concerns, we could always like ask them anything. But yeah, actually I had a bit of complications, which it didn't feel that crazy at the time. Maybe also because of the team. First of all, the placenta didn't come out, and then a team came in, I think some doctors, I don't know how many people. It was quite fast, everything. But yeah, they did acupuncture on me, a few things, gave me some other things, so the placenta would come out. Otherwise I would have gone into surgery, because it is quite dangerous. Long story short, it came out quite quickly, so they managed to actually do that for me, which I was very grateful for. But then I was also bleeding a lot, and they couldn't at the beginning find the source of it. It could have been my placenta, but at the end it was basically a tear I had. But I was how they called it, an easy bleeder. So once I have a wound, I bleed a lot, which is not great, but it is what it is. Anyways, again, there was a whole team there, and they were quite quick and quite determined. It seemed like they knew what they were doing. So I wasn't actually really concerned, which is a good thing, which is weird. Normally you would panic maybe, but maybe the oxytocin of giving birth and holding my daughter was enough for me to stay calm. I don't know. But they managed. They found the source, they stitched me up, and everything was fine. So I was once again quite grateful. I'm always happy, you know. Obviously you can take it for granted. These people, like, it's their profession, they should do it. But at the end of the day, it's just great if people react in the right way and just making sure that the patient has been taken care of. I feel that's a big plus. You always kind of want to feel secure, even in kind of emergency situation, if people can calm you or make you feel everything is okay. I think that's a very good thing. So yeah, we spent a few more hours in the room, and one of the really nice things here in Sweden, I'm very amazed by it. They bring you a really nice breakfast, or depending probably on the time when you give birth, you get a meal, and there's a little Swedish flag in there. It looks really amazing. It's kind of like a welcome to the baby. It feels like a little celebration. And you know, it's just a little detail, but I feel it makes the whole experience so much better, so much more joyful, I feel. So that is an amazing thing they do. And then when I basically compare this to the UK, it has been a little bit different. I didn't give birth in the normal way. Well, I say normal, but vaginal. So from the very beginning, I was in a room shared with other women, waiting first for giving birth. And also after my C-section, I went back there, so I didn't have my own room, and that was a big difference. You know, you feel just like you want to be alone, you want to enjoy your child, you just hear other babies crying. I also had to share a bathroom with all the women there. I feel that was kind of the worst there, because you could see some blood, you know, it was a bit disgusting. It was what it was at the time, you know. I mean, I was also grateful they did a great job with the C-section. I can really not complain about that, but it is a bit of a different system. You almost had here the luxury of having your own room, and especially having this food provided for you. And there it was a bit more rough. For me, it was also a goal to get out as soon as possible. Even if I had a C-section 24 hours later, I was at home, which I was really grateful for, because I didn't want to spend another night in there. It is very disruptive. So yeah, in Sweden, we had our own room, although my partner did pay then a little bit for staying over the night, and he stayed 2 nights. Whilst I stayed 3 nights because of the bleeding, and I also had fever during my labor here in Sweden, and they had to give me some antibiotics, so they wanted to observe a little bit if I get an infection or the baby gets an infection, because it was GBS. If you're familiar with it, it's not very interesting, so I'm not going into any details here. But yeah, you pay a little bit, to be honest. In Sweden, it's not completely free, more for the partner though than for myself. I paid something as well, but it was about 300 krona, which is probably about, I would say, 25 pounds or something like that for the entire stay. So I would still say that's a very good price. So, and to answer the questions I had at the beginning of this video, the pandemic, what kind of influence it had on my labor, on giving birth. Basically, the staff was wearing masks. I didn't have to do that when I was in labor, which I think was really good. You know, breathing and everything is obviously a bit harder with a mask, but the staff was wearing masks, and there was this policy of like, once my partner leaves, he can't come back. So as I mentioned, the last night I spent alone, so he could pick up our daughter and then spend the night with her at home. And the question was there enough staff? And I told you already, I had 3 people, so there was definitely enough staff, enough midwives. I had 1 shift change basically. I had 1 midwife before, and then the team of 3. So there was definitely no concern from my side, which was really good. And because I was calling very early in the morning and kind of warning them that I might come, there was also space for me. I don't know if that's, you know, the reason, but I was quite lucky that I could just go to the hospital, which I chose from the very beginning. The English speaking part, could they all speak English? The main team, definitely. The midwives, definitely. There was only maybe 1 nurse who came in. He needed to take blood, and she couldn't speak English. Because I guess I'm German, I understand a little bit sometimes, but it's really hard for me to respond. So sometimes I just say yeah or nay. It was not a big problem. You know, fair enough, I should start learning Swedish, and that part is definitely for another video. And the last question I had was if the stuff is nice, you know, if I feel comfortable, and that's a definite yes. So there was no issues. I felt, you know, secure. I felt really well treated. My partner as well. No issues whatsoever. Again, a personal experience, and I hope this is always the case, of course, for everyone. But I personally definitely had a very, very good experience. This was a little story of mine, my labor story, my Swedish labor story. If you have any further questions, of course, leave them down in the comments below and I can answer them for you. As ever, thanks so much for watching till the end, and I hope I see you in my next video. Until then, have a great day and stay safe. Hej då!